Be bold. Be heard. Welcome to Unmute Your Mic with your host, Jessica Bell. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Unmute Your Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. My name is Jessica Bell. I am your host from Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm so excited for you all to join me today. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for joining us. If you're returning, welcome back to the Unmute Your Mic family. Before we get started, as always, you can like, subscribe, and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. As always, you can go to unmuteyourmic.org to find any information about the show, past guests, and guests that we're going to have in the future. I'm so excited for our guest today. Her name is Kristie. Kristie, if you could just introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about you.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Jessica, for having me today. I am from Sarasota, Florida, originally. I came to Tallahassee in 1992, went to Florida State University, and went on this wild, crazy journey of self-discovery. I remember the first question I asked myself is, who am I am passionate about empowering women, helping them to see themselves in the best light. Because as you know, we have shadows, as we call them in coaching world, but we have shadows, those dark places. And sometimes we don't ever want to go back there, but sometimes it's necessary in order to heal, in order to be set free in our own minds, to be able to reframe. And so what I do every single day, I'm telling you 5 days a week, and sometimes on the weekend when I'm traveling, speaking, is empowering women to help them see who they are. And not only just to know who they are, but to embrace that holistically.
And I think that's so beautiful, because I think there are so many women who need that. And so what led you to this position, to decide that you were going to reach back and help other women? What led you there?
Ooh, this whole journey. I am 47 years old, and Jessica, recently, just a couple of days ago, I was going through old notebooks and I stumbled across a letter. And I've been writing to myself since sixth grade that I remember. But I found a letter that's 31 years old. And I was writing about a gentleman that had broken my heart. And I said in the letter that I do not trust men. And I could see what we call in coaching thinking traps right there. And I was saying I didn't trust them. I said they are all alike. And it almost caused me to miss out on the man of my dreams, because that seed, that thought was embedded in my mind from a young age. And I often tell individuals, if you don't challenge those thoughts, it's often difficult to change them. And so looking at my journey, all the heartache, all the pain, I wish I knew what I did not know then. I know it now. Perspective is everything. And so I want to give women that gift. Now, what they do with it is on them, but I do want to give them the gift of insight and knowledge and self-value and worth, so they don't have to make the worst mistakes of their lives as I did.
And so what are some of the common mistakes that you feel a lot of us women make, just in our thought process when it comes to healing from things? What are some of the common mistakes?
One, I would have to say, is doubting ourselves. We doubt who we are. We doubt our power. We doubt our ability. We compare ourselves. That's another one I see in sessions very frequently. Comparisonitis. I heard Ian Levin say it like this. So when we compare ourselves to others, it's an act of violence against the self. Good gracious. But I had someone tell me earlier today in session, her statement was, it was a question. I'm wondering, why is it that I doubt myself so much? And so if someone doesn't accept us for who we are, and I'm talking about every aspect of what that represents, our quirkiness, the insecurities, the fears, the past pain, if they can't accept us fully, what I often see is that women have an issue with being able to embrace themselves in spite of the opinions of others. Those are the common ones that I see.
And I feel like comparison is such a huge thing. We're always trying to almost, look at someone else's life to see where we should be, or base our own timeline on what somebody else's timeline looks like. And so was that something that you ever struggled with? And if it was, how did you break that off of yourself?
Yes, I can remember as early as, my teenage years. I don't know if you've ever done this. As a Black girl, I would put on, the towel when you get out of the bath, or, even just playing around. You put the towel on, you wrap it, and make it pretend like it's long hair. Because what we would see is that beauty is this white woman with long hair. Think about even the dolls that I played with. It was rarely a Black doll. Even my Cabbage Patch doll, dated myself, but it was always some fair-skinned woman. And so I believe that was the origin of how I was seeing myself and what I thought beauty was in the first place. So if I'm thinking this is beauty, I'm going to be comparing myself with that type of beauty. Why don't I have that? And I was never I was never designed to look like that. But that's where the misconception comes in. And so, yes, I went through it in my own right. And it wasn't until, honestly, I'd have to say my senior year, when I just got tired of making the same old mistakes, one after the other. And I said, I need to figure out, who am I? That's why I started with that first question is, who am I? Not what society says, not what the labels say, not what social media says, in this current time. It's who am I? And that's why I have 20 vision boards surrounding me to remind me in the event that I may forget. Because as a coach and a speaker, you'll see people saying I'm making 7-8 figures. And there's always going to be someone who's doing more. But that's something that's unrealistic for me to chase. I'm pursuing my individual and unique purpose. And that's where my fulfillment comes from.
I love that. And then you mentioned vision boards. So you said 20 vision boards. How? I think
know.
that's so important because it's constantly reminding you, like you said, who you are. But what led to that? What is the importance of even having vision boards?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. So 20 vision boards, 6 vision books. And I'm going to tell you why I went vision board crazy, because I just started them a couple months prior to, I often say I turned the pink slip into Queenfidence. So about 6 years ago, I was laid off from my job as I was a medical esthetician in a medical day spa. And I had already experienced this prior to, maybe a decade earlier, experienced a layoff. And that layoff, it took me down a path of entrepreneurship. But then there was another time. I tell people I launched 3 times, and then there was the second time that I launched, Jessica, and I left my secretarial job. I used to cry going to work on Mondays. Oh, I was dreading Mondays. And so in that space, I left, early. And then I went to get a building, opened up the building, had the ribbon cutting ceremony. 2 to 3 months later, I'm moving out. And so here's massive disappointment. I go into a 10-month depression. I had no tools how to deal with a public failure to that magnitude. So now here, fast forward 2014, and I received this pink slip. I said, I know what happened last time. I don't want to experience that again, where I'm lost and I'm stuck. So I knew that there was power in the mindset. And if I was going to succeed at entrepreneurship, I was going to have to amplify my thoughts. I call it bodacious beliefs. I was just going to have to get super radical. I believe in radical results. And so, I remember at the beginning of the year, it was around February, my friend girl had a vision board party. And then March, literally that next month, I get the notice. And that's when I went into creating. So 20 vision boards, 6 vision books. And why are they important? It's because the subconscious mind, it's the one that's really leading our lives. We think it's what we think on a daily basis, things that we can see. Somebody trolls you on social media and you're thinking, oh, now I don't want to use my voice. No, it's something deeper than I don't want to use my voice. It's I have a fear of someone's going to not like me. Let's go deeper beneath the surface. So 98% of our behaviors are driven by the subconscious mind. That's why I went deep into beliefs, and I had to start studying what keeps coming up, because everyone has a pattern of thinking. you will never, I honestly believe, grow beyond your thoughts. If you don't believe that you could be successful, baby, you will not be successful. It's not going to happen because there's a thought that's impeding your progress. And until you, we call it challenge the thought, you don't move beyond it. You'll see what we call cycles, and you'll get the same result over and over and over again.
And I definitely think that's something that a lot of us, can relate to, finding ourselves going through the same thing and kind of wondering, why am I experiencing this again? Haven't I done this already? And not really realizing that sometimes it is our own thought process that's keeping us there. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, so you talked about, how you had that kind of like public disappointment. And that kind of stood out to me because there's so many people who experience those moments and then they go hide under a rock and they're like, I'm never going to try anything again. I'm never going to do anything. So what was it inside of you that was like, I'm not going to quit. Like I'm going to do something else?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a woman of faith, one, and I honestly believe my faith just would not let me just lay there and die, because I did ask God, take me out, I'm ready. But the other piece is I've been an entrepreneur since childhood. We were making up company names when we were kids. I can still hear the Kangaroo Company selling each other's shoes. So it's in my blood to do this. And at that one day, that point, I just said, okay, it's time. I'm done. Let's do something different. And I remember saying, if I could just do one thing a day, and I literally started doing one thing a day just to get me in motion, because I was in a dark place. And this is the thing about depression. It's so dangerous, Jessica, because no one can really see it. We know how it is. Think about us as women. We can glam it up. I got my big old earrings on today, but you wouldn't know if I was facing depression right now, because women have become masters at masquerading. And that's another reason why I'm passionate about this work, because I believe that you can have some difficult days and moments. And I honestly believe you can get through every single one of them, but you have to set yourself up for success. So for me, I am a resilient person. It's ingrained in me. I'm going to bounce back. I'm wired that way. I don't know if everybody else would be able to do it, but I know for Kristie, I am wired to bounce back. I'm always going to come back and figure out a way to get beyond the obstacle. And that was the thing that I discovered after, that moment when you start looking at your life and the patterns. It's like, okay, I've gone through it, one adversity after the next. What's the common theme in this? I always get up and rise to the occasion and do something better, bigger, brighter, whatever it is.
That's beautiful. And I think it speaks a lot to the work that you do now, because you have that inside of you and you're able to say, hey, I experienced this. I'm going to bounce back. Now, what is the next thing that I'm going to do? And so you mentioned that you are a woman of faith, and I love that. So can you share a little bit about kind of the role that plays in the work that you do, but just in how you operate in your daily life? Because so often I know certain people, if they are not of faith, they kind of, or even if they are, they feel like it kind of limits them or puts them in a box. And so I think it's beautiful when I see people who have faith, but they can also operate in these other areas and talk to these different groups of people. And so can you just go talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful point that you bring up, Jessica, because I was that woman who had all this faith, but didn't have the works to back it up, right? You can dream, you can believe 1000%, but it is not until you put yourself out there, which is the scariest part of it all. It's putting yourself out there, doing something you've never done before. But the more you do it, the more confidence you often gain from each experience. And think about it. And even if you miss the mark, you're going to gain wisdom. You're going to know what not to do. Building a business from scratch. And when we talk about faith, meaning I built it with belief, that bodacious belief that anything is possible. With this crazy faith, I can tell you a few things that have happened. It's caused me to stand on a TEDx stage. With this crazy faith, I've paid off my home 12 years in advance. With this crazy faith, I wrote out in one of the vision books, 60 bullet points. I was tired of getting my heart broken. And after 13 years of not dating, my dream guy showed up at a business seminar. I stepped outside of the church, went to a Christian business seminar, and there he was. But I had to step out of my comfort zone. So have you ever heard the quote, everything that we desire is on the other side of our comfort zone? And so I was reading last night, actually, about the farmer, and it said the farmer has to have faith, because what's coming against his crops? We're talking about inclement weather, all kinds of things that he can't predict. He puts his seeds in the ground, he's, tilling the ground, all these different things. And we talking about wild, once they start coming up, wild animals can eat it up. So the farmer has to have faith at every stage of that process of growth. And think about us in context of leaders and emerging business owners. What happens is at every stage, that's at the impetus, the ideation stage, when we're just creating, then it starts flourishing, and then people can see it. Oh, you are that woman that does that. And then when you get public notoriety, more visibility, and you experience hateration, and it's just every single stage you want to bring your faith in, and your faith is constantly growing and expanding because you're evolving.
And I love that you kind of talked about those couple of things where, like, it took crazy faith, but you got this amazing thing on the other side. So you mentioned the TEDx stage. That is awesome. That is so awesome. And I think, can you tell us a little bit about how that kind of came to play?
Mm-hmm. That's vision board number 15. Vision board number 15, I just said to myself, I wanted to stand on larger platforms and really get my voice out there, because, as you know, the name of the game is visibility. If I was told, if you're not visible, you're invisible. And for someone who used to hide intentionally, I would be on talent show programs, Jessica, and I'm in the audience and they call my name and I'm acting as if I am not there. That's how bad I had anxiety around performance. So to stand on that stage, that for me, that was solidifying the journey. And even with that, it had its own challenges just to get on that stage. But it took me about 2 years, and I was just online searching for a TEDx platform that would accept my talk. Once I created the talk, and most individuals now, they have a personal trainer that teaches them and coaches them through the presentation process. 6 to 12 months at least of coaching. I did not have a coach. I coached myself with prayer and faith, right? And so once I submitted this message, then I was told that they were going to have to scrap it because I'd used it as a keynote prior to, which I didn't know these little fine rules there, the fine print. So it's now, I think I had about 6 weeks before my performance date. And I go into production again, creating content, a brand new message. I had to create it, learn it, record it, and then get on a stage, know it, inside and out within 6 weeks, a matter of 6 weeks. And so that right there showed my resilience, because I couldn't, how long it took me to put the first message, and now we're talking about second. And then the third challenge was that when we got there, the video, this is the first time they did the production, so the video footage was not usable. So I couldn't even get uploaded on to YouTube. So you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have challenges, but I can still speak. Do you know how many messages are inside of me that have yet to be voiced, that I haven't even created yet? Talk about the ones that are on the computer. And so I want to encourage anyone that's listening to me, prepare for setbacks, prepare for things that go awry and that don't go according to plan. I learned from that major failure years ago that I cannot allow disappointment to have that kind of power over me. So it allowed me to just keep moving. And then I've gotten some of my biggest keynotes after TEDx. I'm headed to Jamaica at the end of the year. So life is rich and it's good, but it's all in here.
Yeah, and I love that you said there's stuff inside of you that hasn't even been birthed yet. So even when that disappointment does come, or we feel like, oh, I couldn't do this, or this was my best, there's always something else inside of us that is brewing and ready to be birthed. And it's always specifically for somebody. And I think that's the beauty in everything. A lot of times I feel like when we do have get discouraged, or we feel like I can't do anything else, or I've given it my all, that there's always somebody on the other side, like you said, of us being uncomfortable, but they wait for us to be obedient so that they can receive what it is that they were supposed to get from us. And I think that's so beautiful. And I love that you have the vision boards. And even when you were talking about your spouse, and you wrote this, this bullet point list down, I think that's also really important, because a lot of women who are single don't know exactly what they want. And so when you were writing this list down, what did you know exactly? Were you praying about it? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know there's a lot of people listening who are like, well, girl, tell me exactly what you put on that list. But I think it goes back to you knowing yourself first to even know what it would be that would complement you.
Oh, you said a mouthful. Because everyone wants that Sierra prayer. Well, Sierra, what did you pray? You left Future, you got your Wilson guy, whatever they, Russell Wilson. And so, yes, exactly. Remember that 13-year journey, I was getting to know Kristie from the inside out. And this is the thing. I often hear women going back to self-sabotage. The man could be right in front of them, but he doesn't have this. So they have, A to Z, but he's missing L and he's missing P. No, if he has the majority, girl, rock with that man. But for me, I had dated in times past, and there were things that I did not like about my experiences. Remember, my heart had been broken. So I was very crystal clear of what I wanted. How would I feel? And what kind of man would make me feel like a queen? Would make me feel loved, would make me feel seen and heard. And so that's where a lot of that came from. I pulled from my childhood. I grew up in a very volatile environment, and my dad and mom were always going at it. And I did not want that. A man that was going to raise his voice, lay his hands on me, non-negotiable. I wanted a man that he didn't have any children, never been married before. I was very specific. I often hear God does work in specificity. If you ask anything in my name according to my will, I will do it. And so we don't have to be afraid to ask exactly for what we want. We are not honest enough. I honestly believe, as women, because of things that we may have experienced in times past, going back to that self-doubt, the doubt that we could have a man that would love us wholeheartedly, unconditionally, and even a faithful man. And so when I look at my husband, it's exactly what I put on that board, vision book board.
I think you're going to have everybody listening with like 50 vision boards around the house, because so much has been manifested from that. But I think that says a lot about just putting something in front of you, knowing what you want and seeing it on a regular basis. It helps you not settle as well, because you know specifically what it is that you want. And so if somebody wants to reach out to you for coaching or that kind of thing, what does that process look like? What is it that you specialize in when you're working with women?
Image confidence, because I often hear we date at the level of our self-esteem, and not just at dating, thinking about if you're looking for an opportunity. If you're counting yourself out, there's just no way you're going to move. Research shows that women don't suffer from a lack of competence. We know we run the world, but we suffer from a lack of confidence, the belief in ourselves that we can be the one, the chosen one, for whatever that looks like. And so there is an application process to work with me. I'm pretty much full right now. But I do take in clients that I feel that are in alignment with who I am. They can, as they say, pick up what I'm putting down, because this is not easy work. It can be very daunting, and it requires self-discipline. I've been doing this for decades. It doesn't stop. You get better at being you. If there are fears around showing up as your most authentic self. Recently I had been practicing vulnerability. I'm known as a powerhouse. I had to be able to wield this fire, because it's a lot. But when I'm in session, being able to learn how to maneuver this fire that I've been given and where it best fits in each environment, that's you learning about yourself. And there are times when I need to practice being vulnerable, because it's going to serve a higher purpose.
I love that. And I think there needs to be more of that. More people who, once you kind of figure it out for yourself, are willing to kind of turn back around and say, let me help the next person, so that there are not just so many women out here who are kind of just, aimlessly. Like you said, we have the power and we know that we have stuff inside of us. But if you don't know how to execute it, if you don't know how to use your power, you're kind of just, this is fire everywhere, and you're catching stuff on fire that shouldn't be on fire. And so I think that is beautiful. Could you just take a minute or two to talk to the person who is listening? Maybe they don't know the power that they possess. Maybe, that important question that you asked in the beginning of who am I? They don't know how to answer that. Can you just encourage them so that they don't give up and so that they know that there is some importance in the journey of pushing forward?
Oh, yes. My dogs, I have 2 dogs, one Queenie and Coco. Queenie the other day, and it's going to make sense, but we were walking and over the sidewalk, the weeds were growing. And this is something new for her because we take this path every single day, Jessica. So she walks around it in the road to pass by it. And that's exactly what we do when something looks difficult, it looks like an obstacle, and we avoid it. I don't want you to avoid your greatness. So on our way back, I pull her through, and she's a poodle, so she jumps from couch to couch in my house. So she jumps over the weeds. It was in her all along to do it, but she needed a guide, someone to show her that it is possible. And so I just want to remind you that it's possible. Whatever it is that you're seeking, whatever it is that you're searching for, and the goals that you are pursuing, it's 1000% possible. You're going to have to guard your ears. You're going to have to guard your eyes. You're going to have to guard your mouth, because you can curse your own blessing by what you're saying. It may have been 10 years, 20 years. I'd waited 13 years for the man of my dream. I knew what kind of ring I wanted, the princess cut, but I was willing to wait. And your strength is in patience. There's one of my favorite affirmations that says, no one is you, and that is your power. So you're not competing with anyone. If you want to compete with someone, the only one you compete with is with yourself. The next best version of who you can be versus who you were. Because one thing I do know is that dreams come true. My dad used to always say, nothing comes to a dreamer but a dream. And I had to add an addendum to that, unless they're willing to fight. Are you willing to fight for what you say you deserve, what you desire, and what you believe you can have? It is 1000% possible. I'll say that over and over and over again. It's yours for the taking. I'm telling you, it's yours for the taking, but it does require an audacity, courage, boldness to stand up for who you are and what you believe in, no matter what the naysayers have to say about it.
Well, I don't need to say anything else after that, because that is the perfect close. Kristie, thank you so much for being on my platform. You have dropped so many words of wisdom and nuggets and preaching, and oh my gosh, it just fills my tank. This was so amazing. Can you just let everyone listening know how they can get connected with you?
Absolutely. I am at queenfidence.com, Queenfidence. Social media platforms, Facebook, Queenfidence Image, Instagram, Queenfidence Image Consulting. If you want my personal, Kristie Y. Kennedy on Instagram, LinkedIn, Kristie Y. Kennedy, Twitter, Kristie Y. Kennedy.
And for everyone who's listening, I will put all that information down below. So if you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, go right down below and I will list all the ways to get in contact with Kristie. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go to unmuteyourmic.org and you can go to the show notes, learn more about Kristie, what she's doing, watch this episode again over and over again, because there's so many nuggets. And I want to thank you, Kristie, for sharing your heart, being so willing to talk about your experience in order to bless others. I know there's so many people who are listening who are going to truly be touched by everything you said. So I want to thank you. Thank you. It was so awesome having a conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. You made me feel right at home, literally and figuratively.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. As always, you can like, subscribe, and follow. You can go to unmuteyourmic.org. And don't forget to be bold, be heard, and unmute your mic to inspire others. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Unmute Your Mic. Be sure to tune in next time when Jessica takes her mic off mute as she continues her journey to find stories that inspire and uplift our communities.